Now, see here. You followed me through 3 department stores this morning, but this is going too far.
Ah, well, cheer up. We're not going any farther until you tell me your name. Now, don't fight it. It's bigger than both of us, and this door's a lot smaller.
This is a very old joke. Boy meets girl in a revolving door, and they start going around together. Joke over.
My name is George Adams. I live at the athletic club, and my occupation is following pretty girls through department stores. My kind.
You let me out of here or I'll scream.
I don't recommend it. The echo in such a confined space might scramble your brains.
Well, then you scream. You can't scramble one egg. You might as well let me go now. I won't tell you my name if I stay in here till the Christmas rush.
Well, just to show you what a charming gentleman I am, I'm going to let you go. But I warn you, you haven't got rid of me for good.
That's what you think.
Florence Odetts, Carlton Arms Apartments.
Hi, Dad. Hello, Miss Honeywell. Am I interrupting something important as usual?
Depends upon what you call important, Margie. We were talking about you.
Now, isn't that sweet? Oh, here's that necktie you were hinting so broadly about, Dad. Now, what were you two saying about me?
Oh, we were talking about that Texas oil man that you and I met in Dallas last winter. Jonathan Jones, remember?
Oh, I can never forget a man like Mr. Jones. Why, he's so loaded with oil money, he uses Cadillacs for bulldozers.
Well, he's arriving in New York tonight, and he's giving us a contract to handle all his Eastern investments for him, and we want you to help entertain him.
We? Why, Mr. Honeywell, you mean you don't want me quarantined when a client is in town?
It does sound like I lost my marbles, doesn't it? But you see, I've never really met this man Jones. He's your father's client. And I understand he's very fond of you, Margie.
Well, don't worry your sweet, twisted mind. I've been so angelic lately, I'm having all my dresses let out to take care of the wing spread. Really? Why, just this morning I gave the brush to a fresh young man who tried to date me. And he was very attractive, too, I must say.
Well, comes the bright new day.
I wouldn't even give him my name, so he got his clever face on and swiped a sales slip off one of my packages. But it happened to be a housecoat I charged for Mrs. Odetts, and now he thinks she's his secret love.
That will certainly cool him off.
Shame on you, Mr. Honeywell. Don't forget, Mrs. Odetts is a client of yours.
I can't, and oh, how I've tried.
Well, I've got to get home and tell Mrs. Odetts she has an unknown admirer. And I'll take good care of the valuable Mr. Jones. See you later, Dad.
It's open. Come in.
What's going on, a fashion show? What's the matter? Don't you think they make you look attractive?
I've given that up. I'll settle for just looking human. I've got to get an entire new wardrobe. And I'm going to get the best. Originals from Paris and hang the expense.
Why, Mrs. Odetts, that sounds like there's a man in your life.
You think there isn't? Margie, guess what? I've got an unknown admirer. Surprised? Well, so was I. But I've got this.
To the lady of the revolving door. Old-fashioned roses for an old-fashioned girl from the man who still believes in love at first sight, George.
He must have seen me in a revolving door and thought he'd give it a whirl. Imagine an admirer at my age. Well, life begins at 80, I hope.
Mrs. Odetts, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but there's something I've got to tell you.
Don't waste your breath, Margie, dear. That little brat Cupid has skewered this old girl like a shish kebab.
But Mrs. Odetts...
Oh, I know you think I'm just a silly old fool to get the romantic heaves at my age. But, well, a woman is never too old to be flattered by a man's admiration.
But what if there's been a mistake?
Mistakes are for the very young, my dear. No, George sounds like a man who's old enough to know what he's doing to a very old lady. No, I can't believe he's just trying to break an old woman's heart.
No, he couldn't do that. He mustn't. Well, I guess I'd better get home. Oh, here's the house coat you told me to get for you. I lost the charge slip, I'm afraid.
Who cares? My charge account is going to bulge at the seams before I get through shopping. I'm going to look real George for my George. Hello? Who is this? George? Oh, hello, Mr. Albright.
We have the perfect investment for that $50,000 of yours, Mrs. Odetts. What?
You heard me. I'm going to keep that cash myself. I'll need plenty for glad rags and a few fast beauty treatments and stuff like that. I've got an unknown admirer who's crazy for me, and I haven't even met him yet. Sent me some beautiful roses with a mash note signed George. How's that for an old chicken with white tin feathers?
But you can't do that. Hello, Mrs. Odetts.
What's the matter? Something gone wrong?
Yes, Mrs. Odetts. She wants to keep the $50,000 to spend on herself. It seems she's got a new boyfriend.
What? A boyfriend at her age? Why, she can't do this to me. You hear? Why, I've already committed that $50,000. Why, I could go to jail. Who is this idiot playmate of her second childhood?
A man named George, that's all she said. Now, how could she have an unknown admirer? There must be some mistake. Wait a minute, I think I've got it.
Well, it's about time you had something.
You remember Margie telling us about that master this morning and how he got Mrs. Odetts' name by mistake?
By Ginger, you're right. That's it.
Then she hasn't got an unknown admirer at all.
But I can't wait till she finds that out. It'll take days. And I've got to have her okay on that money in the next 24 hours.
Well, why don't you go and get the money yourself? You could be Mrs. Odetts' mysterious lover and sweet talk her into it.
Me?
Why, yes, your name is George, and George's name was on the card, wasn't it? Why, you wouldn't even have to lie. Much. Just call her and confess the mad passion you've kept secret all these years.
Me romance that old biddy? Why, she's as old as Methuselah.
Oh, I'm afraid, Mr. Honeywell, it's your only chance. I'd hate for Mr. Jones to come all the way from Texas to find out that this firm can't even handle its aged clients.
Oh, I wish I was dead.
Howdy, Margie. The eyes of Texas are upon you.
Mr. Jones, Dad thought you weren't arriving until tonight. He expected to meet you.
Well, at the last minute, I decided to fly my own plane over here. Going to trade her in on a new one. Got a knock in one of the engines.
That's nice.
Huh?
I mean, that's too bad. I'm sorry. I guess my mind is sort of wandering. Come in and sit down.
Thank you. What's the matter, Margie? You look like you've got a problem that's tougher than steer meat.
It's tougher than that. If I don't think of a solution, and quick, a very dear friend of mine is going to have a broken heart.
Well, now, we can't have anything like that happen to a friend of yours. Maybe we better get our heads together and figure. Maybe I can help you out.
I just wish you could. Maybe you can. Yes, you're just about the right age. Snowy white hair, romantic looking. Mr. Jones, is it true what they say about Texas chivalry?
Everett, Dad burned last word.
Then a gentleman from the Lone Star State would do anything to keep a little old lady's heart from breaking, wouldn't he?
Well, if he didn't, we'd exile the varmint to the United States as unfit to tread on the soil of Texas.
Then you are going to save a woman's pride and honor, Mr. Jones. Bless your dear, sweet old heart.
Oh, it's only you. I thought maybe it might be George. Come on in.
Then you're expecting him. Did he call you? Well, don't worry. He'll probably call in person.
You really think he will, Margie?
I'd be willing to bet on it. $2 on George to win the Odetts handicap. There, you see? I didn't even get a chance to put my money down.
Sweets for the sweets, ma'am, from your lovesick swain, George.
After 80 years, I hit the jackpot. He's a doll.
I trust you don't think that I'm too bold, ma'am, but it's a way with us Texas oil men to be bold with nature. And you, ma'am, are one of nature's bounties.
Just listen to the man. I can't imagine a big oil man bothering with an old gusher like me. Now, tell me all about how you saw me and love at first sight and all the exciting stuff like that. Are you still here, Margie? George, this is my dear friend, Margie Albright.
Howdy, Miss Albright. I'm right glad to make your acquaintance. Any friend of Florence is a friend of mine. I hope you don't mind if I call you Florence.
I just hope you call me often.
Well, now, I'm afraid I can't do that, Florence girl. You see, I'm leaving for the Middle East on some oil business. Catching the boat for Suez first thing in the morning.
Oh, George, no.
Yeah, the only reason I mustered up courage enough to come and see you was because I knew it would be my last chance for a long time. Maybe forever.
Well, one evening together is better than none at all, so let's enjoy it. Do you do the mambo?
Don't you think you ought to spend a quiet evening? You've got a lot of getting acquainted to do. Well, I'll leave you two lovebirds alone.
I feel like a bigger idiot than you are for suggesting this.
Or than you are for taking Mrs. Odetts' $50,000 for granted.
All right, I admit I dug my own grave, and I'd rather be in it than face that silly old woman.
I don't anticipate any difficulty with my client, Mr. Jones, and his account means many times $50,000. Well, I'm going to wait in my apartment for Mr. Jones. Feel free to join us after your romantic interlude with Mrs. Odetts.
Now, who can that be?
Surprise, my love, surprise. Your unknown admirer is a mystery no longer. Your George is here.
But my George is already here.
What? Why, don't be ridiculous. He couldn't be. There is no real George except me. Anyone else is a rank imposter.
Just a moment, stranger. I'd be right careful who I called an imposter. Us Texans have got short tempers and long trigger fingers.
You don't frighten me with that phony Texas routine.
Phony!
Why, I could spot a phony like you a mile away through thick fog. You're a cheap fortune hunter, trying to swindle this poor woman out of $50,000.
What? Why, a measly little old 50,000 wouldn't buy a slick-sided hog where I come from.
Where's that, New Jersey? Don't you worry, my dear. I won't let him get his greedy hands on your money. I'll protect every last dollar of it, except my customary fee, of course.
And never mind the money. What I want to know is which George is the real George.
Thought you might like a little cold ice? Mr. Honeywell.
And what's so surprising to find that I am this lovely creature's mysterious admirer? I, George Honeywell.
Your name's George Honeywell of Honeywell and Todd, the investment house?
I see you swindlers are familiar with the reputable financial establishments. Now, will you leave me with my beloved, or shall I turn you over to the police?
Oh, no, Mr. Honeywell, don't do that. He's no swindler. This is Mr. Why don't you boys just draw straws for her?
Margie, I have a better idea. We'll compare the handwriting of both Georges with the George who wrote the note.
Note? He wrote? I wrote? There was a note?
Why, sure, George. The note that came in the flowers. You remember, Honey Bucket?
Wait. Florence, I have a confession to make. I didn't write a note because I am not that George. But if I have done anything wrong, I have done it for love.
Well, ma'am, that puts a little different light on the situation there. I don't mind leaving now, knowing you'll be happy.
You're sweet and kind and noble. Thank you. I guess you won me, George.
You don't know what a relief this is, my dear.
Don't worry, I won't let you get away. In fact, we won't wait for a formal wedding. We'll elope.
Yeah. Elope?
Isn't it exciting?
But let's not be too hasty. What about him?
He's leaving in the morning for Suez. And I always say a bird in the hand is worth two in the canal.
Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Honeywell.
Don't you worry, ma'am. I'll get him back.
All right.
Sure, hurry, Honeywell. You ain't trying to run out on the lady, are you?
This is all your fault, you crook. It wouldn't have happened if you hadn't tried to grab her $50,000 away from me.
A crook, am I? Why, you old coot,
Mr. Honeywell, what the... Oh, Mr. Jones, this is a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect you until tonight. Glad to see you.
Jones? You mean Jonathan Jones from Texas?
That's right.
Oh, no.
What's the matter with him?
Take the critter inside, and I'll tell you what's the matter.
Well, this is Better than the revolving door. And cozier, too.
You won't feel so cozy when I get through with you. Come on. I want to talk to you.
So it was the $50,000.
There's a fight going on in there already. We'll square off up the hall.
Oh, now, Mr. Jones, please don't fly off the handle. You're my client, and
I ain't mad at you, Vern. No, it's just that I won't do business with a firm that's headed by an unethical critter like this.
Mr. Jones, I'm not unethical. My word is as good as my bond.
Then prove it. Are you going to go through with this marriage, or do I take my account elsewhere?
Please, give me time to think. Just give me time.
Okay, I'll give you until tonight. And then I'm coming back here and see that you go through with it. And I'm bringing my six-shooter. Yeah. In Texas, we don't use shotguns for weddings. And I ain't about to stand by and let anyone break that poor old lady's heart.
there goes a $500,000 account. All I can say is, you goofed.
Well, don't rub it in. Don't sit there. Think of something.
Me think of something? Why me? You're the one who proposed to Mrs. Odetts. Brother, you sure got her account the hard way. Now, if it had been me, things might have been different.
All right, I accept your kind offer of help in my hour of need. If anybody can win Miss Odetts away from me, you can.
What?
I should have left this to you in the first place. You're the romantic type. Why, you'll sweep her right off her feet with your irresistible charm.
You mean you want me to marry Mrs. Odetts?
You don't have to marry her. Just get me off of the hook. Create a diversion so she won't want to marry me when Jones gets back tonight. Then he'll realize that I'm not unethical.
But,
Come back here, you coward. If you don't go through with this, you're through at Honeywell and Todd.
So that's what your cute idea has done so far, let alone how Mrs. Odetts is going to feel when she finds out the truth.
Oh, but I'd like to help you, Mr. Honeywell, but Mrs. Odetts would never go for a gag like this. She knows me, and...
I got that all figured out, too. Gonna get you a nice wig and a beard to match. Why, you'll be a living doll.
Gee, it looks like I really started something, didn't I? Well, guess it's up to me to find out a way to finish it. Will you give me an honest date if I do?
Don't be silly. Nobody can figure a way out of this mess.
Margie, wait. I've got an idea. I can deliver the real, genuine George to Mrs. Odetts.
You can do what? To whom?
Listen, the doorman down at the athletic club is an old actor. A little broken down, but still an actor. He'll make a perfect George. He's got a white Santa Claus beard and everything. Now, I'll give him a sample of my handwriting so he can pass the test, and Mrs. Odetts will be happy. How's that?
Well, do you think he can get away with this?
He gets away with playing Santa Claus for thousands of kids every Christmas.
Well, I guess it's worth a try anyway.
Good. I'll bring him to see her tonight after he gets off work. Then the four of us can double date.
Good evening, Florence, dear. I've got a big surprise for you. I want you to meet an old friend of mine who just arrived from India. May I present Sir Sidney Vernon?
What hell, dear lady? What terribly, terribly hell?
Well, what ho to you, too. Come in.
Dash it all, madam. You're everything that George said you were, and more, too. Permit me.
Florence, I must warn you, Sir Sidney's a very impulsive fellow. Be on your guard.
Well, I always say, obey that primitive impulse, or as we American girls put it, "Roof."
Sir Sidney, you're a born lady killer, and it looks as though you have another victim.
Do sit down, Sir Sidney, and I'll go get some refreshments.
Well, what's got you in such a tizzy, Mrs. Odetts?
Margie, I just met the most adorable man. He's got my other two Georges skinned 4 ways from Sunday.
He's there already? I mean, well, that's wonderful. Does he have a beard like Santa Claus?
All I can say is he doesn't have to wait till Christmas to slide down my chimney.
Well, don't let him get away. If he doesn't propose to you, you propose to him.
Well, how do you think I landed my other 4 husbands? Margie, I want you to hide in the kitchen and give him the once-over. And if you think he's for me, give me the nod. Now remember, you take a gander at my lover boy, and if you like him, give me the nod. Here I go. Yahoo! Sit down, Sir Sidney, please. I want you to tell me all about yourself. And please speak in a loud voice.
Well, there really isn't a lot to tell, dear lady. Life is rather dull in India, don't you know? A spot of tiger hunting, a bit of pig sticking.
Dad!
Never mind the pigs. Tell me about your love life.
Well, modesty and all that sort of thing, you know.
Excuse me, Sir Sidney. I think something's cooking in the kitchen.
Keep it up. You got the old girl dizzy. She'll fall in your arms any minute.
What's the matter, Margie? Don't you like my little English crumpet?
Well, he's definitely not your cup of tea. Mrs. Odetts, that's Dad behind that phony beaver.
Your dad? What's he doing here?
Well, I don't know, but whatever it is, you can be sure Mr. Honeywell put him up to it.
You know, Margie, I've been fighting a losing battle with my woman's intuition ever since old Honey Bucket popped the question. Got any idea what his pitch is?
No, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to play along with it. Then mousetrap him.
With that piece of ripe cheese, it'll be a pleasure.
Stop fidgeting. Everything's under control. You got the old girl hooked. My strategy has worked as usual. Now I'll leave you two lovebirds alone.
George, where are you going?
Why, I was simply taking the opportunity to bow out gracefully, my dear. I yield to the better man, as it were. You and Sir Sidney obviously were made for each other, and I accept fate's decision.
Silly boy. Do you think I'd let anyone take me away from you? Was my little lover boy jealous? Did think he'd lost his snookums?
Well, love conquers all and all that sort of rot. Well, the only decent thing for me to do is to pop off and leave you two to coo in privacy. What? Well, cheerio, toodaloo.
Come back here, you traitor.
Well, Honeywell, I see you're not wasting your time. Who are you?
Just a friend of the family. What? And all that sort of thing.
A friend of the family? Good. Then you can give the bride away while I act as Honeywell's best man. Come on. Now, save all that affection for the honeymoon. Let your little intended get up and get herself ready to elope.
I'm ready, loaded and aimed. Come on, honey pot.
No, Mrs. Odetts. Are you crazy?
The long wait is overflow, my dear. George is here.
Wow, the joint is crawling with boyfriends. And I must say, I like the latest entry.
I came along with Uncle George, Mrs. Odetts, to keep his nerve up.
I'm a humble man, Florence, my girl. But lowly though my estate may be, I offer to you to do with whatever you will.
Georgie, you just made yourself a deal.
Well, shall we go along and chaperone these teenagers?
But you can't do this. What about the 50,000? I mean me.
Mr. Honeywell, the word you're looking for is... Well, as Mrs. Odetts' new boyfriend, the actor, puts it, all's well that ends well. Mr. Honeywell's got his 100,000, you've got your Texas client, and I've got the real George.
Okay, Margie, but please, the next time you get caught in a revolving door, give your right name.
Oh, I did, Dad. Only instead of a revolving door, it was the elevator. It got stuck between floors, and I met the best-looking man you ever saw. And he's coming here tonight to meet you. And he's a Golden Gloves champion. So if you don't like him, you can throw him out.
Well, that's my little Margie.